All right, Brandon, what is going on, my man? Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's good to finally meet you and chat a little bit. I know we shared some back and forth online, so this will be cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to call these. It's meeting, but still not in person, but still good. Still better
Yeah.
than just messaging.
Yep.
Brandon, what we usually like to kick off with is if you could give the listeners a background on what your business is and what your role in the business is.
Sure. So my name's Brandon, owner of BK Stays. B is for Brandon, K is for Katerina. That's my wife. We are in the short-term rental business. A little bit of coasting, a little bit of revenue management, kind of, you know, owning, buying, handling for others as well. We own three ourselves, one with a partner. We manage another nine, I think. So we're getting close to on a dozen here. And I mean, short-term rentals just it was kind of my path out of the W-2 life. Um, I spent 12 years in college athletics, so I was kind of doing it one for an exit strategy, but also just you know we were looking to start investing in real estate, and short-term rentals became the avenue to do that. And so, BK Stays is kind of what came from that after buying and self-managing successfully and organically growing the co-hosting, and I mean, kind of just taking off from there.
Yep. So before we hit record, we were talking a little bit about the direction the business is currently going, which I think is really interesting. Just it's
Hmm.
not as common or maybe competitive as general co-hosting, but it's around revenue optimization. So, can you explain what that is and what that means when you work with someone?
Yeah, yep. So to kind of start with, this started because I was looking to hire someone to help me on my team, right? And I was really looking for a virtual portfolio manager who could help with honestly everything, all the back end stuff. I wrote down a list of like 50 things that I do daily or almost every day. It's like, I don't want to do these things anymore, right? I created a job description. I went into Upwork and I found somebody who was looking to basically be a co-host for a co-host, right? And turns out he's a revenue manager by trade, right? Like freaking awesome. Like shout out to Jake. He's my dude.
Mm.
And he came in, helped all my back end, all my tech stack, but we really took off with revenue optimization, right? Like I did everything right. I had some new photos, I had good places, and I understand revenue management and I know understand the data, but I didn't have the time to really do it successfully. And so Jake did that for me, right? So for the homes that we bought and managed, we were seeing anywhere from 25 to literally 60% jump from 2023 to 2024, right?
Wow.
So part of that was maybe me doing a poor job up front and him learning more and also just really fine tuning the data and setting proper goals and looking ahead on things. So that's kind of another avenue that we're starting to shoot here because we're still growing co-hosting, but the revenue management piece has really gone well for me within my portfolio. So I said, hey, let's try to reach out and see if there's other people that are in our situation or my situation that start to need some help, right? And that group is like, it's a co-host who's already got maybe 10 to 25 units, and they're not looking to obviously hire an assistant, but they're looking to offload certain facets, right? For one could be like bookkeeping, right? For us, it's going to be revenue management. And yeah, I mean, we've onboarded two clients, and we've got two more in the pipeline that we're starting with, and right now we're handling about a dozen properties for each of them, and I mean, I feel pretty good about where we're headed.
So, just making sure I understand too, I'm always just curious about different business models. Are
Yep.
you targeting the owners to try to work with the owners, or are you trying to work with more the larger co-hosts and almost like white label your service so that they can kind of provide it to theirs and you still might get paid? Because again, like I like both models are interesting. It's just like pros and cons, of both.
Yep.
But is there a way that you think you want to do it, or
I
that it's
Yeah.
happening?
Yeah, I definitely kind of have this vision where it's funny, and I use my portfolio as an example. I like to buy and invest in several different markets, right, for diversification. But when we're revenue managing these, every single one is a little bit different. So it takes a different strategy and it takes a little bit more time to be successful in that, right? So when we're going after like the people that would fit best with us are it could be an owner who has 15 to 20 homes, or it could be a co-host who's got 15, 20 units, whatever. that are usually in the same market, because we're going to be able to use that data like the most successfully across handling their portfolio, right? If I went after some co-host and they're in 15 different markets, that's like 15 different approaches we're going to have to take to try to be successful in. And so it's just, we don't want to set anybody up for failure by, diving into a new market that we're not familiar with, right? And then that's where we also started, is like we're also starting in markets we're in because we have 2, 3, 4 years of data, so we know we can be successful and we know the trends, right?
100%. So I want to talk about some of the actual like co-hosting again. I'd love to talk about that too, but we haven't had many people on the show that specialize or have experience with revenue optimization or
Right.
see a 20 to 60% revenue
Yep.
boost or 20 to 75%. Like, who
Yep.
doesn't want that? So
Yep.
I guess maybe if you could start with, where do you guys start? Like, let's say you work with a new client. Let's say, I say, Brandon, I've never even heard of revenue optimization. I didn't even know it was a
Mhm.
thing, but like, let's do it. Let's roll. If you
Sure.
can get me some more bookings, like, I'm
Yep.
game. We're struggling. It's 2025. Everyone's saying it's harder, this and that. So we need to be more competitive. We need to be
Yep.
more kind of agile. Where do we start? What do we do?
Well, I'll take it down to like a micro level. Like if you brought us on to do just one home, right? And that could be amplified if you have 5, 10, 20, whatever it is. But it's exactly what happened in my own co-hosting portfolio. I take on a new client, and if they have the reservation data from like the past year or so, great. We're gonna ask for all that. And essentially it's having a clear conversation up front. Like, what are your goals? Like, what did you do last year, right? Like, realistically, could you do much better than that? Or did you perform
Mm,
at the highest level, right? Are we gonna be able to kind of meet those expectations, or exceed those goals, right? And if you didn't have a good year because either self-managing didn't go well for you, or your previous property manager, there's some big ones out there that are notoriously getting hit hard, right? Like, or did they just not do a great job, right? So we will look at the home and make a realistic, specific, like, target for how they should perform annually, right? And you've still got to have, you got a realistic look at the home. Do they have good amenities? Do they have good design? Do they have good photos? All the above, right? Like, we can't come in and it's can't put a chandelier in a haunted house, right? Like, it's still got to be a decent listing. It's not miracle working. It's just using data for the right thing. So long story short, you bring a home. Hey, we think this home should total gross revenue 100K for the year, right? We'll look at the market, look at previous data, and make specific targets for every single month. We'll compare home to market and just basically use all of those basically market projections to make sure we're on pace to hit what we need there, right? So it's a lot of spreadsheets. It's a lot of data comparing listing to market, or listing to year over year. Where were we at last year? Um, so yeah, and then essentially it's just tracking progress, how we're going. Where we booked
mhm.
last summer, peak season's coming up, right? How many did we have on the bookings for summer right now compared to last year? Are we pacing ahead? Are we behind? It takes a lot of most of the. I mean, a lot of success can be attributed to good owners or good co-hosts who understand that, like, this is all about earning the revenue, right? They're not afraid to go a little bit lower on minimum night stays or their pricing. They're not afraid to kind of push rates a little bit higher, even when it seems like, hey, we should never get that rate. So I don't want to say like give us full flexibility, but like the less stipulations we have and like the better kind of agreement we have with our owners or co-hosts, like that's when you see the most success.
I gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
And the data, you said spreadsheets must be a big part of this. So, do
Yep.
you mind walking through what your software stack is, or what your recommended software stack is for people that what you would work with, or that they're just
Yeah.
interested in this?
Yeah, so I've had Price Labs since I launched, and Price Labs works for me, right? I'm not loyal to any one dynamic pricing tool. Um, so, and I think it really depends on the type of like subset you bring on, right? Like I told you, I kind of have homes all over the place. So Price Labs works really well for that. But if we have somebody that brings in 10 units all in one area, like, I know Wheelhouse has a lot more granular functionality, and so if you want to kind of create specific rule sets or groupings, like that could be another tool to use that way. I've played in there a little bit, but I've just always been a Price Labs person. I know Beyond does a good job too, right? I just haven't used Beyond pricing yet, so I'm loyal to Price Labs because that's what I have, right? It's cost effective. It works well. I think it's pretty user friendly. I like all the training videos online, so yeah.
What do you say to someone that says Price Labs is too complicated? Like, we use it, but every time I go in there, I'm like, man, maybe this is why I need Brandon. Maybe this is why I need a price manager. Because I'm like, this is a job. Like, there's a whole world to this. Yeah, you can stay in, like, best practices, but, like, there's so many little knobs to tweak that every time I go in there, I'm like, we're just scratching the surface. Like,
Well,
we're just, you know.
yeah, and they're obviously constantly, updating products and making things more, just more functionality, the ability to make more rule sets in place, more triggers. I think that's also part of it is like, it can be complicated, excuse me, but everything is possible to learn and do yourself. The next facet is, can a revenue manager earn you higher, higher daily rate, more occupancy? Can they get you more revenue across the board? But also, would it be worth it just for your time, right? Because I've got several different clients that I talk to where they do really well, right? They're already performing at the top of the market. So when we sat down with them and they pull us all the numbers and all the data, they're like, it's top 5 bedroom in the market, it's top 4 bedroom in the market, top 3 bedroom, and they're like, how are you going to do better? It's like, are you going to hold us to it? Like, is that you're doing extremely well? What are we having this conversation for? Well, it's about their highest and best use of their time, right? So we're basically doing it for them to get their time back and go focus on scaling their portfolio. So I say all that to say, you can learn it. It is complex, and a lot of times it's not about, try not to pull too many levers in there, right? You could have too many rule sets or too many seasons built for every single month. Like, you can really overcomplicate yourself pretty quickly if you just truly understand what pacing is, if you truly understand like your booking lead time and when you should be getting your highest daily rates, right? What you should be charging, and when is it appropriate to really start compressing rates to get booked in the off season as opposed to peak season.
Yep, I gotcha. I guess for someone that's like, all right, I have a basic understanding of it, but where should I maybe start or consider messing around in Price Labs? Yep. What's the 80-20 that you think? The area that maybe people could go in, make some smaller changes or just quick changes, and maybe it'll have a bigger impact?
Yeah, I think number one, you need to have a realistic comp set, right? Like, do you have an average property? Do you have a good place, or do you have a great place, right? Make sure you really hone in on who your true competitors are, because you're competing with everybody in the market on getting seen, but you want to be as close as possible to, a 4-bed, 4-bath, it is significantly different than a 4-3, right? An extra bathroom for depending on the market, it really matters, right? And so 4 beds aren't all equal to other 4 beds, right? We're in North Georgia mountains, right? You could have a perfect brand new modern cabin, 4-bedroom, 4-bath. If you don't have a view, everybody with a view is not your competitor, right? They're going to be doing substantially better, right? So just from the very start, make sure you have a realistic comp set and understand how they're booking and how they're doing in different months of the year, right? When is your peak season? When is your slow season, right? And that's what you really have to start planning ahead for and everybody gets so caught up in peak season here, summer travel season, there's a lull, and then you got peak fall season before holidays. I see it every time. We get to January, February, slow season, and everybody's empty. And they're still too high, and they're panicking, and they're just, it's a race to the floor on rates. Well, guess what? Everybody that was looking ahead compressed it a little bit ahead of time, got booked early, and their occupancy's fine, right? So I would say, look, kind of really understand your calendar, understand your market before you dive into, you can do so many tools with Price Labs Wheelhouse, all of it is, right? So
yeah, 100%. On the co-hosting side of things, let's talk about the typical properties or types of owners that you work with, because you mentioned that you've turned people away, that there's people that
Yeah.
aren't the right fit for you.
Hmm.
So when you're looking for a co-hosting client or interviewing a co-hosting client, because it sounds like it's an interview both ways, the way that you like
Yeah.
to do it, how do you
Yeah.
like to think about it as far as like your niche, your demographic, or what you look for?
I will say, I mean, me being a parent of two young kids, I know how to. I don't. You're never supposed to be your own guest avatar, but I know how to market to myself or to my wife very well if we're traveling with kids, right? So, I typically look for options that I know how I'm going to be able to push the family friendly amenities here, right? I know that there is a certain guest avatar traveling to that area, and that's what they're looking for, right? So when I'm talking to owners, I mean, for one instance, she used the home like 4 months out of the year, and half of it was in peak season, and so that was an easy. I don't think this is going to be beneficial for both of us, right? So you don't need to hire me. I've had another home where it simply just they weren't willing to bring it up to what I would call market standards to be competitive, and I was like, I could list it right now, but nobody's going to be happy with the results. So it's really about owners and homes that are willing to be competitive, and I don't mean go nuts. Like you don't have to just throw tens or hundreds of $1,000s and amenities and upgrades, but you got to be able to bring it up to standard, right? And if you can do that, then we're going to happily take you on and try to do it from there. So
Mm-hmm.
there's, and I will say there's two types of owners. There's the ones that they're just extremely busy. Here's the home. Do what you need to do. I just want to see revenue coming in, right? And I trust you. And then there's people that have a lot more say in how you're managing things and doing things. So just being clear on expectations up front and kind of giving us some trust. And I mean, obviously we want to do well for everybody on that side too. So um,
Yeah, 100%. What have you seen as far as like changes into 2025? Like some people are saying it's a bad time to get into Airbnb. Some people are saying it's a great time. Other people are saying, it's the same. Like, where do you see the market, the industry? What have you seen with clients, people that you manage?
I will
Or,
say,
or your own as well, of course.
yeah, well, okay, from an actual like Airbnb bust to debunk that myth, like as an owner and as a buyer, I don't see I see where there's good markets and where there's bad markets, right? For how to make a good investment or not, right? So
Yeah.
um, there's a lot of opportunity to get into the short term rental market yet. I actually see when you want to use the term saturation, there is a huge saturation in co-hosting right now because I mean, if you couldn't buy or manage your own, co-hosting is another way to do it, right? I'm also co-hosting. There's a dozen. You could hear. There's a dozen co-hosts in Blue Ridge. Every other. There's so much competition out there, and that's why we decided to start pivoting into revenue management. So, I mean, what are we seeing from the co-hosting and competition side? Like, who can kind of diversify the services the most? Who's going to be the best? Basically management, right? Who's going to get the highest and best dollar for everyone's time? Who's going to take care of your property the most? Like, you got to be able to specialize in something to be a competitive co-host, right?
Mm-hmm.
From the guest perspective, I mean, it's challenging, right? I mean, expectations are obviously through the roof. There's a lot of really high quality listings out there, and there's a lot of travel demand is still going. No matter what people say, there's more nights being booked. So you really got to bring your A game, right? You really got to provide a nice, clean space. You've got to be quick with communication. You've got to be, I mean, you got to be on it, right? And so there's a lot at stake here. I don't. I mean, it's scary to think like obviously you're managing your clients' homes and they could be multi-million-dollar homes and they're kind of really banking on this revenue to pay their mortgage, right? To help fund their kids' college, whatever it is. And so, any minor screw up, call it missing a clean or something like that. And if you're looking to start handing out refunds, if it's warranted, right, you're really affecting your owner's pockets. So they're putting a lot of trust in you. So stakes are high everywhere.
Yeah, 100%. Um, when you think about the way that you have your property set up, is there anything that you've changed in your methodology over the last few years of amenities or design, anything special, the way people use the property, stuff like that. We were talking about before we hit record of just different things that we've even done in our properties and continue to do. But it's always evolving. So I'm just curious if there's any things that you found that have been like really good ROI or just like almost necessities maybe now that weren't a few years ago.
Yeah. Obviously, really good ROI is professional photography. I mean, when we bought our first cabin, we bought it furnished. We honestly got lucky, right? We bought it at the right time. We got a good rate, good price. Still managed very well, but as time has gone on, we're like, all right, we're gonna need to level up here, right? So at like our personal cabin, we brought back a retaining wall and put in a playground, right? And so like we knew we needed to level up on amenities, right? And we've started to do that with every home that we're purchasing. And I was like, where can we bring it to the next level, right? I think the hardest part about that is the more stuff you bring in or the more amenities you provide, the more you got to keep track of and the more that can go wrong, right? Like you bring in a game room, you should have pool table, ping pong, foosball, all of it, right? And all of that comes with things that can get lost. So you really need to step up your inventory and your operations game to make sure that you're still providing a good product on another level, right? So
100%.
that's kind of been key. And for the last two that we purchased, we brought in a professional design team to kind of do it all from top to bottom, right? And one of them I kind of installed the entire home on ourselves, and then the other one we basically hired a team to come in and set it up and stage it because it was, I mean, timing was key. So I mean, it's
Where do,
it's it's definitely a lot. It's different now.
Are there any specific amenities that when you talk to a new co-host client or even look at yours, you're like, this is a good ROI. Like, this really like I'm thinking, the golf simulators that I just put in, like
Yeah, yeah,
that's a
it,
good ROI because the cost has come down, but it's also
yeah,
such a draw for people. Maybe
yeah.
5 years ago it wouldn't have been worth it because it was 50 grand for a simulator. So it's like,
Exactly.
times have changed.
Yep. I will say so. At our newest place, up in Michigan, we're kind of going full outside. We obviously we brought in a jacuzzi, we brought in a barrel sauna. It's really market specific. We know that I can't put the ROI on it, but I know that those are going to be two high generating things, right? Um, we're gonna test it and see how it goes. We got snowed on too quick, but we've got 2.5 acres up there, so we're actually gonna have our own private par 3 course on the property because we've
No
got about,
way.
yeah, we've got like from the house all the way back to the end of the property line, we've got about like 85 yards that we can toy with. And so we're going to put a putting green out at the back and a little tee box up at the house, and basically, hey, you can chip from the house to the putting green down there, and it's a massive golf community, a golf resort. So we're really trying to lean into those travelers in the summer. And unfortunately, we got dumped with like record snow, like when we were supposed to show up and do all the work. So we're gonna have to add that in the spring, and then I mean, same thing. Bring out new photos, bring out new photographer, and kind of restage it and everything. But so I do think that's going to be a really high ROI, but that's for our home specifically, right? Um, I
Wow.
tell I tell all my co-host clients like if they're a little gun shy on spending too much up front, go nuts on any big box store. Get all your board games. Get just as many games and puzzles as you can. Stack it up to like chest high. Like look at all the stuff we have for all your family friendly stuff to do here, right? Like that just speaks out to the kids, and it's also critical because when you've got bad weather, people are sheltered inside and they need stuff to do. The last thing you want them to do is be bored and start picking away at your listing or your home and finding things they don't like. So just keep them busy, right? 10, 20
Hmm.
bucks for whatever these games are. So you can go real small with it, or you can go obviously much much larger like we did at one home.
I gotta ask, what is the price point and like the setup and ops of building a par three? And for those
Well,
that don't know, it's just like instead of mini golf, it's like these are mini golf holes that are
yeah,
maybe I don't know how the distance, but people are hitting actual shots instead of
yeah,
just putting.
and we'll find out if I actually want to provide real golf balls or not, or if I want to give them like the foam ones for practice. That's to be determined. But I'm only able to pull it off because of the right property location. At the end of a cul-de-sac. We've got almost 3 acres. Like we've got seclusion, even though it's not a cabin out in the woods. And
Hmm.
so the landscaping company when they come in, it's going to be about 20 to probably about 25-foot diameter. Just we're gonna do a standard putting green, right? Put a hole and a pin out there. I mean, you probably at 15 grand. It's as similar as like if people are coming in to turf their backyards, and you could do like the same thing, putting green for turf. That's what we're doing. We just have the space to actually hit to it.
Mm.
Hmm.
So, but like, are you handy? Are you going to build this thing yourself? Like,
No, no,
did you
no,
get quotes? Like, what
no,
is?
no, no. No,
Because I thought about doing. I'm still thinking about doing putting greens in some of mine, but I didn't pull the trigger on. I went with the golf simulator instead, but it was expensive, and I
Yeah.
don't know. I was curious about it, but what does that look like?
So if it is like if we're talking like flat ground, if I want to come in and I want to put some turf in and just cut some putting green holes and stuff, I could probably do that myself. But one, I don't have the time to do it. And so I've got a lot of handyman or contractors that are capable of doing certain things. But because this is going to be the really the staple of the backyard, right? Because we're gonna bring in this large, we're gonna put the putting green out there. The golf, I call it a putting green, but it's a hole. We'll put that out there. There's no fire pit yet because of all the snow. So there's going to be the big full fire pit design out there, and we've got space to do a bunch more. Like we're going to probably go with bocce ball or cornhole pits and horseshoes, things like that, because we can put it out there. I may bring in a playground too because we have the space for it. So
Hmm.
long story short, I knew we were going to kind of go a full swing on it. So I brought in some landscaping companies to give me some quotes, and when there's not too many up there that I think could do what I want, so that's what we're going with.
What are you budgeting for something like that?
Probably the hardest part about when you buy a new place and you're trying to figure out what furnishing and renovations are going to cost is budgeting and hitting on price. So what I initially looked at was probably about like 15 grand for like a tee box and the actual putting green. And we're
Uh-huh.
close to that. We're a little higher, but we're also putting in a bunch more things. Like the yard goes down and it slopes down a little bit, and so we're actually going to put in some like railroad ties for like some nice steps. So like if you're going walking out there, you can actually go down a couple steps and things. So I mean, we're between 15 to 20,000 on that project alone.
Wow. That's
But
I mean, like I've seen
I
it.
don't, yeah, I don't have the data yet, but I'm 100% confident if we were to put in a $20,000 this amenity, we will absolutely get that back on the year because it's a 5 bed home. It sleeps 14 people, so the guys want to go out there and do a full week of golf and stuff, and then they can kind of practice from the backyard. It's going to do well.
Where is it again? Sorry if you mentioned it.
It's way up in Bel Air, Michigan. Yeah,
I
up
know a
in.
lot of people do like golf in Michigan. Like it is a golf hotspot in Michigan, but
Yep.
that is awesome, man.
Yep.
I need to see some pictures of it when it comes out. That just
Yeah.
I've only seen one other property like that, and it went super viral on social media. Like I'm wondering then we've worked with some influencers, but like to me that sounds like a home run of like you could get some golf influencers in there, man, or it gets
Yeah.
picked up by just some of the publications,
Yeah.
and you're booked for years potentially after that.
Yeah, and that's kind of been it's a catch-22 because I'm thrilled that they got tons of snowfall and we're really close to a ski resort up there. So it's like it's been booked all winter for people skiing, right? And now I'm honestly waiting for the snow to melt and to find me a clear week or two where we can get landscapers out there to finish it, and then we'll see the leaves turn and we'll get some green. And all right, let's get photographer back out there. Let's get some drones going and let's get all these shots that we want because you know to book a huge summer trip like that, you're probably booking what 4, 5, 6 months in advance, and we don't have that amenity showcased yet. So I feel like we're already compressing rates this summer in order to just make sure we stay booked. And once it's all done and fully optimized, I think we're going to be 1.5 to 2 times on rates, and it'll do well next year.
That's awesome, man.
Mhm.
I think you'll definitely see a big uptick. I
Yeah.
mean, like again, what I did with one of mine was I knew that others were successful with it, so I did it. But I didn't put it in both at the same time because also you learn
Yeah.
stuff too. But
Yeah.
like I wish I would have done it sooner. And now I just did it in the other one, so
On
that
the golf
makes a
simulator?
big
On the
difference.
simulator?
What's that?
You mean on the golf simulator?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was always something that I had looked at myself, and then my biggest fear was obviously like troubleshooting, right? With issues going wrong and guests needing help turning on, powering, braking, whatever. And I mean, obviously, once you learn it, you can provide enough instructions and how-to tutorials and things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool, man. So, where do you see yourself going in 25? What's the plan? You know, you have, I think you said 9 co-hosts, 3 yourself.
Mhm.
You have a little bit more of a niche, which is cool. Where do you see the business going?
Yeah, I mean, for me, long term, I definitely always want to keep buying, right? So this year, I would like to buy 2 more, if not 3, right? Probably one of them will just, my wife and I go make another purchase, and then if I find the right place and I find the right, capital partner who's interested in going and building another type deal, I'd like to, yeah, buy 3 more this year. The revenue management, it's new, man, but it's going well. So I'm gonna keep pushing that a little bit and see if we can take on some more clients, but with the caveat that, like, we really don't want to spread ourselves too thin on that. I would much rather have like 10 really happy clients than, twice that and we're doing okay. And same with co-hosting, right? I would love to take on, 5 more co-hosting deals this year, just to, I mean, I would call that a modest amount, just to keep growing it, keep growing the brand and the business, and we'll see where it goes. I've got goals, and I feel like I could raise them, but it's like, well, we'll just keep it methodical and make sure it goes well.
100%. Brandon, any parting words? Anything that's been top of mind with you lately? Anything you've been reading, listening to? Any like interesting things that you've been messing around with in your day to day or business that you want to share with the audience?
You know what? It's funny. So you talk about like reading, right? I've been an avid reader for years, and I put down every Tim Ferriss book I can. I put down every Bigger Pockets book I can, and it was funny that I kind of caught myself last month, and I was like, I need to just shut up and do the work and stop taking in the content, and just like, I know what I need to do. I need to like sit down and just start hammering out some productivity on things. So I don't want to tell people not to read or consume and learn, but it's like at some point, like, people, you just got to get in the game, right? And that could go co-hosting, it could go buying a property, right? Building the business, whatever it is. So there's that, and then, for me personally, because I'm no longer with a W-2. I'm doing this full time. I'm really focusing on optimizing the operations for the current portfolio. Um, I just got back from vacation. I was out of the country all last week, and like anything that can go wrong did. Right? We had an HVAC that went out at one home. We had a jacuzzi that went out on another. Like, just so many issues came up, and I'm sitting on the phone on my vacation trying to troubleshoot these things. And it's like, all right, when this comes up next time, who's getting a call, who's taking over, who's problem solving it, just so I can, it doesn't have to be solely on me, right? I would like to continue to grow and build and be highly involved, but I don't want to be 100% on call all the time.
Yep, 100%.
Hmm.
I love it, man. I'm excited to watch the journey and see where 2025 takes you, but it seems like you're in a good direction.
Yeah, thanks,
What's the
man.
best way for people to get in touch or find you on social media?
Yeah, for social media, pretty simple. I mean, it's Instagram or Facebook at BK Stays or BK underscore Stays on Instagram. I've got a TikTok, but we don't post anything on there. That's more just for consuming, other running things on there. Um, yeah, and then at bkstays.com, pretty simple, right? I'm on LinkedIn as well, so you could find me there. So yeah, just
Epic, man. The
anybody can
time
reach
flew.
out. Yeah.
Really appreciate you coming on, and yeah, look forward to seeing how things unfold for you. But appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, John. This was awesome.
All right, you got it. Epic, my man. Really good.